Live from Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. 176 abducted victims in Woro and Nuku communities of Kwara State regained freedom 6 months after abduction. Osun State Governor heads to court as EFCC freezes state government accounts 10 days to governorship election. And Pope Leo XIV billed for first Latin America trip to Peru, Argentina and Uruguay, where he spent decades as bishop.
And in business, Dangote cuts petrol price to 1,165 naira per litre and diesel to 1,570 naira per litre.
And in sports, 10-time champions Nigeria currently in crucial battle with Egypt in their quest for quarterfinal spot at the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Details later.
Tonight begins in a moment. So, residents abducted during the deadly February attacks on Woro and Nuku communities in Kayama local government area of Kwara State have regained freedom after 6 months in captivity. The development was announced by Olayinka Fafoluyi, media aide to Governor Abdurrahman Abdurrazak, who praised President Bola Tinubu, security agencies, and all those involved in securing the victims' release. The victims were kidnapped when armed attackers stormed several communities on February 3, killing at least 75 people and forcing many others to flee. Reports estimate that about 170 women, children, and other residents were abducted. Staying with security, the Nigerian army has declared wanted the governor of Islamic State West Africa province, Abu Musa al-Mangawi Bashuwali, and his deputy, Amirul Jida. This follows their identification from technical devices obtained during a recent offensive against the terrorist group in the Lake Chad region. The acting military information officer, Northeast Joint Task Force Operation Hadinkai, Captain Mohammed Goni, disclosed this in a statement on Wednesday. Now, according to him, their identities were obtained after a forensic exploitation of the recovered devices, including high-level intelligence materials and a camcorder. Let's head on now to Osun State, where Governor Ademola Adeleke has accused the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, of unlawfully freezing the state's statutory account, describing the move as politically motivated and vowing to challenge it in court. He alleged the action was intended to frustrate his re-election bid and insisted his administration would seek legal redress. While the governor has since vowed to sue the EFCC, the anti-graft agency is yet to respond to the allegation.
We received a letter from our banker forwarding a letter from the EFCC instructing the bank to freeze Osun State government account. This action was taken without any court order. We are supposed to be in democracy, where the rule of law must always prevail. We will therefore not accept any situation where we have federal agencies trample on the constitutional right of subnational governments. This is a threat to democracy. If we all keep quiet and allow this illegality, very soon, whatever is left of our democracy will be fully eroded. All I ask is for the EFCC chairman to explain to the good people of Osun State and to the Nigerians in general why he froze Osun State government account and show proof to support whatever reason he presents. These and all our illegalities being visited on Osun State is turning our democracy into a huge joke. I repeat, this and all other illegalities being visited on Osun State is turning our democracy into a huge joke. I am instructed by Attorney General to challenge this illegality at the Federal High Court, Osogbo.
Meanwhile, Accord Party has condemned the freezing of Osun State government's accounts by the EFCC ahead of the 15th August governorship election in the state. Describing the move as unjust, illegal and reckless, the party says it is part of the wider plot to use the police and federal agencies to capture Osun State for the opposition All Progressive Congress. Accord Party noted that the EFCC could not obtain a court order to freeze the government accounts because of its illegality, hence the hurriedness to cripple the state. In a release signed by the national chairman, Chief Maxwell Mbudem, the party vowed to challenge their action in court. Staying in Osun State, security operations are intensifying ahead of the governorship election, with police authorities assuring residents of a peaceful, free and credible poll amid rising political tensions in the state. Commissioner of Police in charge of the election, Samuel Etaifo, says security agencies are fully prepared to prevent any breakdown of law and order before, during and after the exercise. Speaking at a meeting with heads of police formations, divisions and units in Osogbo, Etaifo pledged a level playing field for all political parties and warned against electoral violence, intimidation and other forms of malpractice.
But I promise you, and I promise the people of Osun, we are going to achieve it. My third mandate is to play the ground and create a level playing ground for all political actors. For all political actors to exercise their franchise. Gone are the days that the police will be partisan or people allege us to be partisan. The police, we are going to do our job. The electoral provision for the role and function of the police is very, very clear.
For this conversation, we turn to legal practitioner Libros Oshoma, Osun State APC Assistant Secretary Adedino Wahid, as well as an Osun stakeholder and political analyst, Wahid Saka. Good to have you on, gentlemen. Let's start with you, Libros. I want you to quickly talk to us about the legality or otherwise of the freezing of the Osun State government's account, as is being alleged by the state government.
Thank you for having me. The EFCC, so because of the number of guests that you have, understanding there is a news item, and I would be very brief. The EFCC had said that they were investigating allegations of corruption and on huge withdrawal of funds from the said account, and so they hurriedly issued a post-no debit, instruction to the bank. The said bank, First Bank now. We remember that about 16 state governors sometimes ago had challenged the powers of the EFCC to investigate state government accounts. And the Supreme Court unanimously, I think led by Justice Abba Aji, held that the EFCC Act empowers the EFCC to investigate state accounts. That's on one side. That's Section 38 of the Act. But in investigating those state governments, the court also recently, the Federal High Court, I think just recently, 2026, the Oyo State and EFCC matter, the court held that Section 38 is not a unilateral application, that the EFCC cannot just ask for the entire state ledger, that EFCC instruction must be specific and direct to a particular investigation. And Section 34, subsection 1 of the same EFCC Act require that EFCC must apply to court ex parte, via an ex parte application, if there is need to freeze any account at all. whether individual or state. But however, there's a caveat to that section that for an emergency situation where it will not be possible to immediately obtain such an order, that EFCC can freeze that account administratively for 72 hours. And after 72 hours, if there is no court order, then certainly the bank would cease to obey that instruction. But also, quickly, I must say this, that you find ruling parties consistently, under the guise of investigating, consistently had used these tactics to muzzle states that are in opposition. We saw it happen in 2018 in Benue State when Osun just moved from APC to PDP. We also saw it happen in the same 2018 in Akwa Ibom State when there was political realignment and all of that. So the same government, you remember the president when he was governor in Lagos State.
I have to interject. A key thing you've mentioned is the fact, because I was going to actually ask how long they can do this without a valid court order. But the next thing here is, where is the legal line between the legitimate anti-corruption investigation and actions that could interfere with the constitutional functioning of a state government?
That's why I'm saying that even if there is an emergency situation, such an action cannot exceed 72 hours by virtue of Section 34 of the EFCC Act. And otherwise, that action becomes a nullity, becomes void. The court must order and instruct it. And even though it's ex parte, you must place material fact before the court, because also the court had consistently held that even though Section 38 empowers EFCC to investigate all corruption at all strata, from federation, state, and local government account, but then it is not absolute. There also should be restriction. We should also consider the federalism structure that we operate in Nigeria against the backdrop that the federal structure, the federal government would not want to cripple the activities of the subnational. So that's why a lot of people are saying that this is more all politics and has nothing to do with EFCC. And I also think the EFCC should tread carefully, because if you are suddenly investigating states' opposition and then you're freezing account, if there was a court order, it would have been a different thing. And then another thing is, if this application is applied to all of the states, including the federal government, for example, elections are approaching and you get a court order to freeze federal government account so that funds will not be deployed for election, under the guise of investigating allegation of a 21 billion naira intervention fund, then certainly people will say it's a principle of general application. But once it's selective, then people are going to raise eyebrow. That's why you have all of this hue and cry.
Okay, since we're sticking with the legal line, could this action by federal agencies like the EFCC become grounds for post-election legal challenges if one party, as we see now, is already alleging unfair interference?
No, I think this is not a ground for this is not contained in the Electoral Act as a ground for challenging the election. But I also am aware that the governor had instructed the Attorney General to challenge the action at the Federal High Court. If the action is challenged at the Federal High Court, certainly the Federal High Court would issue an order directing the FCC or the said bank, to unfreeze that account so as not to put, the workers and the entire state activities in jeopardy. So, and I'm aware that this is not the only account that the state operates, but because EFCC also has alleged that there were massive withdrawals, because they monitored this account, that there were massive withdrawals from this account in recent time to private and other public account. And so to forestall a situation where, the investigation will be a nullity, they had to take the step that they took. But this step cannot last beyond 72 hours without a court order by virtue of Section 34 of the same EFCC Act. Anything outside 72 hours and there is no court order, then that order instruction becomes a nullity.
All right, Liberals, when we come back from this very short break, I'm going to be asking you what legal questions the judiciary will be expected to answer if the governor takes the matter to court. That's after this break. We'll be bringing you the story of WAEC, I beg your pardon, pass rates dropping by 2.26% as 1.2 million students earn credits in maths and English. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We have our guests still. Just quickly, Liberals, could you respond to the key legal questions the judiciary is expected to determine when this matter gets to court as quickly as you can, please?
Because the very basic question would be, what are the grounds that EFCC has, to request for an order to post no debit? Is it true that there were unreasonable withdrawal from the account, or questionable withdrawal from that account? And then what are the material facts to show that truly, indeed, the investigation is being conducted in that account, that particular account? And then also, if those questions are not answered, then the court is likely going to instruct that account be unfrozen, or ask parties to maintain status quo, and that funds should not be removed from that account until, the contrary order is given. Or in the alternative, if it's about money that had been removed from the account before now, then certainly documents will show where those money went to, because EFCC knows how to trace the money. So head or tail, really, I do not think, because from the EFCC statement, I do not think this is about funds that had left the account, or that funds that are likely to leave. I think it is more about muzzling opposition, because even if you are investigating it, why is it coming, all of a sudden at the twilight of the election? Okay,
let's bring in Waheed Seka, who is a stakeholder and a political analyst. Thank you very much for being here. We have seen allegations of political interference, increased security deployment, and intense campaign rhetoric. What does this tell us about the political climate leading to the election?
Well, fundamentally, there has been tension in Osun in the past 3 months. It was a security concern when there has been incessant killings across the state. Then the security buckled up, and there has been noise around the composition of the campaign council of one political party, and the supposed muscling of the government and the other political party. However, the new one that we wake up to see today is that of the intervention of the EFCC. And I see my guard there, the Boros, have spoken so much about the legality or otherwise of the position of the EFCC on this. I don't want to dabble into it. I want to say that the current arrangement, people are saying political to the current arrangement of EFCC. However, my experience has shown that prior to elections, there are a lot of shenanigans that has been done, even financial, in the name of empowerment by leading political party. So the frozen of the state government account may have limited or nothing to do with political. And as a matter of fact, I remember the state government openly called EFCC to come and look at their account themselves, because there have been series of issues concerning the spending in Osun, concerning the projects executed by the government, and concerning the government-owned audit firm, saying that the book of the state government is not right. Okay. So if the government openly called for intervention of the anti-graft agency, why should we have to target political now that the EFCC came to question the book? Okay. I know for a fact that 2 weeks to election, politicians, they know what they are doing. And whatever anybody may say that is because of the election coming, are they going to use state fund to execute the election? That I know no government will dare do that, because the focus is currently on government in the state, and even if you want to do such, to be very, very careful, because even electoral process is a major concern for not only the security, but also the anti-graft agencies are monitoring election. You know, election spending.
Let's also bring in Denirov to get his thoughts. He is a spokesperson, I think Assistant Secretary of the APC in Osun State. I mean, you've heard everything. The governor says he's going to the courts. What is your party's response to the governor's stance?
Thank you very much. APC, All Progressive Congress, we are not AFCC, and we can't be a spokesperson for AFCC. But all what we know is that AFCC has constitutional power to investigate any suspected account, So based on it, so FCC is doing these works. So let us wait till the investigation, until they carry the thorough investigation and do whatever it needs. But as for us, we know that EFCC can carry out their power anytime, any day. So by saying that it is FCC is political, but no, it's not political. It's not political. It's not political. Okay. Because EFCC has the constitutional power to investigate and to prevent corruption. So if he's not doing his work now, and somebody saying that it is politics, no, it's not political.
Okay, let's come back to you quickly before we go back to Liberals for his last thoughts. You mentioned earlier that this is not about politics per se, but the governor himself did say they're trying to frustrate his re-election efforts. But he also said that the government uses that account to deal with issues like salary payments, official financial transactions, among other issues. How do you respond to that part of his comments that this could cripple effectiveness of government actions in the state for the people?
Whatever the problem created by law can only be remedied by law. If the state government found it to be things of concern, they will challenge it in court. EFCC is equally a creation of law. And for whatever reason, if this is affecting the payment of worker salary, you know, the EFCC can go with an expert to court to say they are putting no debit on the account, but they can equally challenge him and get the injunction out of the way. So for me, the government know what to do. They should pursue it without the rhetorics of they are doing this to frustrate his re-election. I know for a fact, if you are truly loved by the people, this will even energize them more. But if you are putting the rhetorics as if somebody is imposing on you, it's even, for me, you call for it, they are here, and you still claiming blue border.
All right.
It's unnecessary, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, Adeniro, in 40 seconds, if you can, the timing of these allegations has raised concern among many voters. Can you assure Osun people that your party is committed to a level playing field?
Thank you very much. APC as a party, we are a peaceful party, and we believe in the electoral process. We believe that election is not only for electing leaders, even it is just to encourage, to promote democratic value. As far as we are concerned, all we believe is that it is the people that we decide who wins the election. It is the people's win. For us, that is why we are campaigning from one place to the other. We are moving from one community to the other. Engagement of every sector of the society. Why we are campaigning. So we believe that by August 15, with the level of our work, we are going to win that election. We know that, but as far as we are concerned, we are campaigning on issue-based campaign. We are trying as much as possible we are campaigning for Osun to let us restore the prosperity of Osun.
All right,
let us bring more hope for Osun. That be more development for Osun. That's what our campaign was. We don't believe
Thank you very much. Quickly, Liberos, your final thoughts in 40 seconds, if you can. Your assessment, what Nigerians should be watching most closely between now and Election Day, especially with this matter.
Election is like the sacrament with which the people actually assess their leaders, and whether those are in government and those that want to also come into government. People have always said, you know, that Nigerian political parties or Nigerian electoral process, there should be a level playing field. But I believe that there has never been level playing field. So you try and bulldoze your field to make it level. So the people, the power rests with the people. If the people decide that, you know, they want to let it slip away, it's absolutely up to them. But for me, I think the allegations of EFCC investigating, while I agree, like I said, it is within their statutory power to investigate. Also, morality also demands that sometimes some of these things should be balanced so that it doesn't look as if it is only when the opposition is involved that EFCC is swept. That way, they will be seen as being biased instead of just being seen as doing their job.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for obliging us tonight. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying with us. There was drama in Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory as two opposing protesting groups took to the streets over the state of the nation. While activist and politician Omoyele Sowore, alongside members of the Take It Back movement, marched through the streets of the capital demanding good governance. Another group, led by another activist, Collins Eshiofeh, also protested, demanding the immediate arrest and prosecution of Sowore, accusing him of conniving with external forces to destabilize the country.
Made a couple of demands. We would like to understand what these demands are. And on top of those demands, we understand that you have a personal one, that the charges leveled against you at the Federal High Court be dropped immediately.
Immediately, but that's not only our demand. That the DSS must be removed with immediate effect. That's Tosin Ajayi for even daring to be violating the rights of Nigerians. The DSS is not his private property. It is Nigeria's agency.
There remains one man who continues to insult the intelligence of this nation. That man, Mr. Omoyele Sowore, he calls for revolution, not because he loves Nigeria, but because he's been sponsored to destabilize the very fabric of our governance.
Inviting foreign donors, they have been sponsoring him to destabilize our country. Nigeria is not a banana republic. The DSS, they must rise up to protect our nation.
Away from that, the South African Consulate General in Lagos has denied reports that it has stopped issuing visas to Nigerians amid ongoing anti-migrant protests in South Africa. The mission describes the reports as false, stating that its visa policy remains unchanged and that applications continue to be processed based on existing requirements. Now, according to the consulate, Nigerian DJs were recently issued visas to perform in South Africa, describing the development as evidence that consular services remain fully operational. To education matters, the West African Examinations Council has released the result of the 2026 West African Senior School Certificate Examination for school candidates. WAEC said 1,200,514 candidates, representing 61.54% of those who sat for the examination, obtained credits in at least 5 subjects, including English language and mathematics. Speaking in Lagos, head of WAEC Nigeria, Dr. Joash Dangot, said the performance was slightly lower than the 62.96% recorded in the 2025 examination. The council said results for 1.83 million candidates have been processed and released, while those of over 116,000 candidates are still being processed. WAEC also disclosed that the results of 167,486 candidates were withheld over alleged examination malpractice, although the figure represents a decline from the previous year's record. Now, the federal government is set to roll out a 90,000-kilometer fiber cable network expected to connect over 3,700 telecom towers and more than 20 million underserved Nigerians. This was made known by the Minister of Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy, Osun Tijani, while updating President Bola Tinubu on progress made in Nigeria's digital sector. Tijani noted that recent government reforms, including infrastructure protection, tariff adjustment, and tax harmonization, have strengthened the industry, boosting its contribution to GDP from about 18% to nearly 21%.
So the meeting today is really to appreciate Mr. President, but also to update him on 3 critical projects that we believe His Excellency gave us the mandate to implement. One is the 90,000 kilometers of fiber optic network across this country. We've done a lot of work putting the resources together, raising that money, contractual agreements. We're now at a point where in a few weeks' time, we should start to lay those fiber so people will start seeing us around the country deploying the fiber. This is going to transform Nigeria for good. It's a project where every state, every geopolitical zone, every local government, and every ward in this country will be covered with fiber optic cables, which will transform the quality of connectivity. So that's number one, which I've updated him on. The second one is the project we're doing where we're bringing over 20 million Nigerians who live in rural areas who don't have access to any form of telecommunications at all.
Effective leadership in uncertain times has been said to require more than technical competence. It demands strategic agility, emotional intelligence, and decisive communication. At a session in Lagos, participants examined how leaders can navigate economic volatility, technological disruption, and changing workplace dynamics. They note that executive presence requires clear communication, confidence, trust building, and strategic direction to foster organizational stability and strengthen team confidence.
Okay, and the theme for today was, leading in uncertain times. 1 minute you have, a goal. The next minute, everything is shattered because of everything hitting you as a leader. We're talking economy, we're talking humans, we're talking, systems, and we're talking even finances.
And one of our lead stories tonight, Pope Leo XIV will make his first official visit to Latin America as head of the Catholic Church in November. The Vatican says the Pope will visit Uruguay, Argentina, and Peru from November 6 to 17. The trip includes stops in Buenos Aires and Lima, among other cities, and will mark the first papal visit to Argentina and Uruguay in nearly 4 decades. The visit to Peru is expected to be especially significant as Pope Leo spent many years there as a missionary and later served as bishop. The Vatican says further details of the Pope's itinerary will be released closer to the start of the visit. A short break now, and when we come back, we have business, sports, and entertainment news. Stay with us.
In business, the Dangote Petroleum Refinery has reduced the ex-depot price of petrol and diesel, saying the move is aimed at making fuel more affordable and supporting economic activity. Under the new pricing structure, the ex-depot price of petrol dropped by 50 naira to 1,165 naira per litre, while diesel falls by 80 naira to 1,570 naira per litre. The refinery says the price review is part of its commitment to improving access to refined petroleum products, strengthening Nigeria's energy security, reducing dependence on imports, and supporting businesses and consumers with more affordable fuel. And coming down to the equities market, the Nigerian equities market edged back into the positive territory on Wednesday. NGX snapshots, we have, of course, the all-share index at 244,912.24. Market is up marginally. Market capitalization is at 150.08 trillion naira. Sectoral performance, the mood across sectors was more upbeat, all right? We're seeing banking and insurance both gaining 69 basis points, while we have consumer goods gaining 40 basis points. Oil and gas and industrial goods flat for today. We'll see how the market turns on Thursday, but that's it from me today on Business Tonight. I am Joanna Mustafa. Up next, sports.
Hello and welcome to sports. 10-time African champions, the Super Falcons, are currently battling Egypt in a decisive Group C clash at the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations, with a place in the quarterfinals on the line. The scoreline is currently 1-0 in favor of Nigeria. The Super Falcons must beat Egypt while hoping Malawi beat or draw with Zambia in order to have any chance of qualifying. That match is currently on, with Zambia leading by 2-0. A three-way tie involving Nigeria, Zambia and Malawi remains a possible outcome, depending on the outcomes of both matches, with CAF's head-to-head rules set to determine the final standings if required. Meanwhile, Nigeria's Flying Eagles have booked a place in the final of the 2026 WAFU B Under-20 Championships after defeating host Cote d'Ivoire 4-3 on penalties following a thrilling 2-2 draw after extra time. The regulation time ended 1-1 before both sides scored again in extra time, forcing a penalty shootout where the 7-time African champions held their nerve to seal victory. The win keeps Nigeria's hopes of retaining their title alive. The Flying Eagles will face either Niger Republic or Burkina Faso in Sunday's final, with only the winner qualifying for the 2026 CAF Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations to be hosted by Ghana. Nigeria's Junior D Tigresses began their 2026 FIBA Under, and that's how we have on Sports Tonight. Entertainment is up next with Edewo.
All right, let's jump right into entertainment as Afrobeat superstar Rema has officially announced the release of a date for his first solo single of 2026. The Maving record hitmaker revealed that his new track titled T will drop on Friday, August 7th. The announcement has sparked excitement among fans who have been eagerly awaiting for his new solo music, from this global star. Now, Rema has kept details about the song on the wraps, and now the title is out, and it has fueled speculations about how the sound and what it really means, the T. All right, let's move on internationally as Beyoncé has thrilled fans with the surprise release of the Morning Dew Donk remix pack. Now, this 4-track project arrived without any prior announcement, and it features 2 new versions of the song with her husband and rap icon Jay-Z, who delivers fresh verses and appears on an acoustic remix. Now, the release follows the official debut of Morning Dew Donk earlier this year after leaked demo versions circulated online for years. Now, the original track debuted in Billboard Hot R&B and Hip Hop Song of Top 10 and became Beyoncé's 61st Top 40 hit. The song is expected to feature on the deluxe 20th anniversary edition of B-Day. So much anticipation for good music, and we're always here for it. That's all on entertainment news, by the way.
And that's the news tonight. But before we go, a quick recap of our top stories. 176 abducted victims in Woro and Nuku communities of Kwara State have regained freedom 6 months after abduction. The Osun State Governor is heading to court as EFCC freezes state government account just days through the governorship election. We also brought you news that Pope Leo XIV is billed for his first Latin American trip to Peru, Argentina and Uruguay, where he spent decades as bishop. Do share your eyewitness report with us. Use the number showing now on your screen. And also share your thoughts and comments on our programming. We are on social media at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. As always, thank you very much for your kind attention. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.